Okay, wonderful to see all of you. Hope you're having a good day so far. It is Wednesday, so we'll do a Rashi from the fourth Aliyah, an exciting, beautiful Aliyah today. One in which, hold on, let me just get that up for you. Sorry about that. Okay, hopefully this will work now. There we go. Okay. In our Aliyah, they finally give Yaakov the great news that his son Yosef is alive, and then they, of course, have to convince him to come to the land of Egypt, which is not an easy thing to do. But first, after Yosef sends the brothers home back to his father, the pasuk says, "Vayalu miMitzrayim v'avo eretz Canaan Yaakov aviem." The brothers come from Mitzrayim back to Canaan. They see their father. Ve'agidu lo le'mor od Yosef chai. They say to him the great news: Yosef is still alive. V'chihu Moshe b'chol eretz Mitzrayim. He's the ruler over the land of Egypt. Vayafag libo ki lo ha'amin lahem. At first, Yaakov doesn't believe them. How could he? Such crazy news. A, his son is alive. B, his son is now the viceroy of Egypt. Who could have thought such a thing? And after so many years of really mourning his loss, or really not mourning his loss, and making sure that, as the pasuk tells us earlier in the Torah, Yaakov refused to be misnachem. He refused to be comforted for the death because he really believed he was alive. So all this is going on in Yaakov's mind, and the brothers come and give him this news. He can't believe it. He's incredulous. It's just absolutely impossible that this could be the case. But then everything changes in the next pasuk. Vayedabru elav es kol divrei Yosef asher diber alehem. The brothers repeated back the entire message that Yosef had conveyed to them to convey to his father. Vayar es ha'agalos asher shalach Yosef lasesoso. And in addition to hearing all the words that were transmitted through the brothers from Yosef, he also saw all the wagons that Yosef had sent to Canaan to carry Yaakov back to Egypt to be able to see him. And at that point, after those two stages, after hearing Kol Divrei Yosef, and after seeing the Agalos, Vatachi Ruach Yaakov Avihem, and his spirit was alive. And then the next pasuk, and it's already tomorrow's Aliyah, V'yomer Yisrael Rav Od Yosef b'nichai El Chaverenu b'terem amud. Therefore, let me go down to Egypt. Let me see Yosef one more time before I die. So the transition from not believing what happened to believing what happened to deciding to go down happens in these three psukim. Pasuk number 1, Lo ha'amin lahem. He didn't believe it. Pasuk number 2, his spirit becomes alive. He believes them. Pasuk number 3, he decides to take action based on that belief and actually go down to Egypt to be able to see him. There's a famous Rashi here, which explains in this pasuk, Chav Zayin, what exactly Yaakov heard that convinced him that Yosef was indeed alive and made him change his mind from disbelief to belief. As Kol Divrei Yosef, says Rashi, what does it mean that the brothers conveyed all the words of Yosef, and now all of a sudden Yaakov believed them? What were all these words of Yosef? What message did he send to his father that they conveyed, which actually now worked to convince Yaakov that he was alive? Siman Masar Lahem, in the words of Yosef that he told the brothers to convey to the father, he had given them a hint, a clue to give to his father. He told the brothers to convey to the father, to Yaakov, in some way, that the final parsha that they had learned together, the final piece of Torah they had learned together, Torah, in the pre-Matan Torah era, that they had learned together before Yaakov sends Yosef to check on his brothers, before Yosef is sold into slavery and goes down to Mitzrayim, was the parsha, or the sugya of Egla Arufa. So somehow the brothers were meant to convey that remez, that no one else would know. Not even the brothers knew that was the last sugya that Yaakov and Yosef had learned together. Only Yaakov would know this. Only Yosef would know this. And therefore, if the brothers were conveying it, they must have actually spoken to Yosef. Yosef must still be alive. And that is confirmed by the second piece of the pasuk. Not only as Kol Divrei Yosef, not only did they convey that message orally, but it's doubly confirmed by the sight of the agalos that Yosef sent for his father. Yosef specifically sent the agalos. Agalos are wagons, but it's the same root as egla, as a calf. Agala, egla. So they conveyed the words of Yosef. They conveyed the words of the remez, the hint to Yaakov, and it was doubly confirmed by the sight of the agalos, not which Paro sent to get Yaakov, but which Yosef sent. He sent not only to pick him up and carry him, but also sent to confirm the message that he was sending, to confirm the remez, the hint that he was trying to pass to his father, to convince him that he was indeed alive. And it works. Yaakov is techi ruach, his spirit is elevated, he's rejuvenated in some way. In the next pasuk, he decides to go down based on that belief and actually see his son. It's a famous Rashi, famous idea in Chazal, that Yosef had passed along this remez. The agalos were the confirmation of the remez. It's a beautiful idea, whatever it means. Hard to understand what exactly meant that they were learning at Glarufa before Matan Torah. What exactly were they learning? How were they learning it? But it's a beautiful idea. What struck me about this Rashi is a question that I guess I always had in my mind. And that is, what happens to the relationship between Yaakov and Yosef after all these years of absence, after everything that transpired? When Yaakov actually does go down to Egypt and finally sees Yosef, what's their relationship like? Do they just pick up where they left off? Is it a new relationship? Is it a different relationship? Is it a damaged relationship? What exactly happens between them? We don't really get an indication in the Torah of what their relationship is like. The next thing we know after their initial encounter, which happens later in this week's Parsha, all we know is what happens on his deathbed as he's starting to bless his children. We don't really know what happens between them and what their relationship is like. According to this Rashi and this Chazal, I think what it's trying to convey is not only that Yosef sent a remez, a hint to his father to convince him that he was still alive, but maybe what he was saying to his father is, let's pick up exactly where we left off. What he's saying to his father is, we left off in Egla Rufa. Now you know I'm alive, you're coming to see me. Let's pick up with Egla Rufa again. Here's the Agalos. What he was trying to convey is, at least the aspiration is to pick up the relationship where we left off. Now, whether that's possible in a human realm or not, after everything that comes over a human being and changes the nature of each of them, I would imagine that the relationship has changed in some way. So we don't know what actually happens, but I think in a certain way, what we see here conveyed in this Rashi is the aspiration of Yosef, that at least they would be able to pick up where they left off. It's a lofty aspiration, one that may not be achievable. We don't know if it was achieved or not, but at least it conveys the thought process of Yosef and what he intended, and really what he wanted in terms of the relationship with his father, which I think is interesting to think about.